So, at the time I'm recording this, Raya and the Last Dragon just came out on Disney Plus for free. Today, Friday, June the 4th. So, yay. By this time, it has been 3 months since the movie's original release on March the 5th, having enough time to see how the movie has done over that time. So, in this video, I will use my knowledge on I will use knowledge overall on how well the movie has done, as well as my knowledge on the entertainment industry to tell you if there will be a Raya and the Last Dragon 2, or perhaps a show, or perhaps just not keep going. Hi, hope you're having a great day. You're watching J Entertainment. Me. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe to get more content covering your favorite entertainment. I'm working on a video on type 5 ideas for Raya and the Last Dragon 2, or Raya and the Last Dragon show, or it might change. I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep that video, but it'll be something around those lines. So please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. And if it already came out, I'll leave the link here, or I'll leave the link in the comments or in the description. As well as talking about the comments, comment down below if you like the movie Raya and the Last Dragon, or if you loved it, or if you hated it. As well as if you would like a Raya and the Last Dragon 2, and what would you do with it story wise. Okay, now let's get started. Okay, before we get started, I did shift angles. I was a little uncomfortable on the other angle, so I shifted a little bit. So if you see me a little different from the start, it's because I shifted angles. Okay, now let's actually get started. I just said that before, but now let's actually get started. Okay, so for a movie to get a sequel, it has to have done good money. Usually on theaters, it's the most decisive place on how much money or how successful a movie is. However, this time the movie also came out on Disney Plus for premiere access, so this will be a huge deciding factor to see if this movie will get a sequel or a show or just not keep going. So I will analyze the box office numbers and the Disney Plus premiere access success here. I am going to start with box office numbers, since measuring the success on Disney Plus will be a little bit more complicated. So, Raya and the Last Dragon has a total of $129.2 million, with 52 million being from the domestic box office, which is the US and Canada, and $77.6 million were from everywhere else in the world, which is the international box office. So, are these good numbers, taking into account that the movie came out in a pandemic with limited capacity in theaters and limited theaters open? Well, let's start looking at the domestic numbers. It is no secret that Raya and the Last Dragon had a soft opening weekend, with an opening of $8.5 million, especially when Tom and Jerry had just opened at $14 million. However, now Raya and the Last Dragon has beaten Tom and Jerry's box office overall, which is very impressive since Tom and Jerry almost doubled the opening of Raya and the Last Dragon, which is what brings me to my next point. Raya has had really strong holds domestically week to week to week to week to week, with even last weekend, which is Memorial Day weekend, still being on third place on the domestic box office, just behind Cruella and The Quiet Place 2. And it's literally been 3 months since the movie came out, which is crazy. There has been countless movies that came out there. There's been movies like Nobody. There's been movies like Godzilla Kong. There's been movies like Mortal Kombat. There's been movies like Spiral, and there's just been countless movies. But Raya and the Last Dragon is still third place, just behind Cruella and The Quiet Place 2. Crazy. This shows that this movie has grown interest over time, and it's actually been super successful in the domestic box office, with almost beating The Croods 2 domestic box office, which was also super successful. However, Raya was in premiere access, whereas Croods 2 was only on theaters. So this means that Raya definitely did more profit than Croods 2 did domestically, which means that Raya and the Last Dragon was a huge hit domestically. Now let's take a look outside of domestic and let's look at international box office, which, like I said, includes everything in the world except for Canada and the US. So, how did they do there? Well, Raya and the Last Dragon did $77.6 million internationally. Is this a good number? Well, I think it did good enough. What do I mean by this? Well, this movie definitely didn't blow away internationally like it did with other animated movies during the pandemic, such as Croods 2, which did $111 million internationally, or Soul, which did $116 million internationally while being free on Disney Plus. So this movie definitely didn't blow away from those type of box offices numbers. So you can see the movies behind Croods 2 and Soul. However, it's still beating other movies like Tom and Jerry and, more surprisingly, Mortal Kombat. So I definitely think they did good enough, but it definitely wasn't the hit that it was domestically. But I think it still did good money overall. I would say it did good, but I wouldn't say it did great. So overall, like counting the domestic box office and the international box office and joining them, the movie did $129.2 million, which is good for a pandemic, like really good for a pandemic. However, the movie has a budget of at least 100 million, and it's said that it's 100 million plus dollars. So the movie looks like it broke even with the box office number and the budget. However, you have to take into account that theaters usually stay with around 50% of the movie tickets overall. So that would mean that Raya and the Last Dragon made for Disney, if we're taking that 50%, $64.6 million, which definitely doesn't break even from the 100 million plus in budget. So now let's take a look at the other super important half of the equation, which is how well this movie did on Disney Plus Premier Access to see if it does deserve a sequel or a show or just not keep going, since we can see that box office numbers did good, definitely did good, but it didn't break even. So we'll see. Raya and the Dragon was for Premier Access on Disney Plus. This means each account has to pay for $30 to be able to watch this movie at home, and they can watch it as many times as they want, but you have to pay the $30 fee first. And different from theaters, Disney actually stays with the whole $30 instead of having to share revenue 50% and 50%. So, how good did it do there? Well, like I said earlier, it's very complicated because we don't have concrete information from Disney themselves like we do with the box office. So I'm going to be looking at the Nelson ratings, uh, to kind of like guess how good the movie did. Nelson ratings, if you're wondering what Nelson ratings are, Nelson ratings measure the minutes watched of a show or movie on some streaming services, including Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, and Amazon Prime. And I think those are all, but I might be wrong. They calculate the numbers for the whole population based on a sample of 40,000 homes and 100,000 people. So, for the opening weekend, Nelson calculated that Raya had 355 million minutes watched, which is pretty good. The movie is an hour and 57 minutes long. However, about 10 minutes are credits. Yet, I'm going to take off 17 minutes off the movie because that way we can have a clean number, because that would make 100 minutes if we take off 70 minutes. So that would just make the calculations. I can just put 100 minutes instead of having to put 107, which doesn't look like a huge difference, but whenever you put in all the numbers, it just comes up to a bunch of numbers. So I just decided to make it clean. So I divided 355 million by 100, which equals the 100 minutes of the movie. That gave me 3,550,000 people saw 100 minutes of the movie. Now, let's just pretend that's how many people actually bought the movie. So that way we can actually get around an average number. So we'll multiply 3,550,000 by 30, because that is how much Raya costs for Premier Access. That would give me $106,500,000, which means that's how much money Disney made from the opening weekend of Raya and Disney Plus Premier Access. And it's only for Disney. Disney alone. No sharing 50%, nothing. It's all Disney, which is really good, really good. Now, obviously, these are not the exact numbers. You have to remember that. I don't have concrete numbers. These are not the exact numbers. But it gives you an idea how much money it did on Disney Plus, which is pretty good. Also, keep in mind, people still bought the movie after, not just the first weekend. For example, myself, I personally bought it the second weekend after I heard great things about it. Great word of mouth, great reviews, so I just decided to buy it. I was pretty interested in the movie anyway, so I just bought it the second weekend. So that leads me to think that the estimate for the movie, like overall, on how much it made on Premier Access, is probably anywhere from 125 million to 150 million. It's probably between them. I'm not I don't think it went higher, but I don't think it went lower either. I think it should be a pretty healthy margin in there. And that's only for Disney. Like I said, they don't have to share it, so that all goes to Disney, which definitely means that the Raya got its made profit. It definitely broke even from its budget, and it made profit. So does this mean that we'll get a Raya and the Last Dragon too? Well, I think it's about a 75% chance. However, I do see another path for the Raya and the Last Dragon franchise to continue. And that's why I don't think this. That's why I think Disney hasn't made any announcement on an official sequel or nothing. And I think that they're paying very close attention to how Raya does on Disney Plus overall. Why? Well, Moana has been the top 10 of Nielsen ratings ever since the category got added on the movie side. Ever since that category got added, it's been in the top 10. And now Moana's getting their own Disney Plus show just because it's such a big streaming giant for Disney Plus. And Raya had really strong holds whenever it got premiere access each week and week and week and week. I think it had pretty strong numbers. It was right there with Moana and Raya. You had to pay for Raya. It's already out now, but it was there for a really good while. And like I said, today it's gonna come out for free. So I think that Disney is really trying to see how well it does on streams. Not only like this weekend, but I think month after month after month to see if they would actually make a sequel, and if not, I think they would just do a Raya and the Last Dragon show. And that is why I think that Disney hasn't necessarily announced a sequel. I think they really want to see where this franchise has more potential. If it has more potential in streaming as a streaming show, or they would rather move forward with a sequel and try to get bigger box office numbers in regular time, not anymore in pandemic, not in pandemic time anymore, since we're already getting out of that pandemic time. So yeah, I definitely think that this IP should keep going. I think it has a lot of potential from a bunch of different perspectives. Like the story wise, I think it has a lot of ways to go story wise. I think it has a lot of potential in the box office or streaming wise. Like I really think that it has a lot of potential streaming wise, or even merchandise wise. I think especially with the dragons, I think it has a lot of potential on merchandise. I think a lot of little girls, little kids, basically, are gonna want to buy dragons. Are gonna want to buy the merchandise, and I really think it has a lot of potential. I'm sorry, I had to do that. And I also think that even with attraction parks, I think it has a lot of potential because Kumandro and Raya and the Last Dragon was such a big place, and it was so how to say imaginatory, I guess that's how I would say it. It just had like so much new things to it, and it was like a complete different world that if it was real, I would want to go visit. And I think that they can take a lot of advantage from that and put them into their own parks, either Disney World, Disneyland, or a different park, maybe in Asia, since the movie is a little bit more of Asian culture. So maybe they'll put it in Asia. So I definitely think this franchise is moving forward over the success it had in the box office and this is plus as well as in PVOD, which is something I didn't mention. It came out in PVOD around 30 days after it came out on Premiere Access, and it definitely did really good on PVOD. It was number one for a good while, and I think that it went back number one today. I think they switched the price, and it went back number one today. So it's definitely doing very good in PVOD. So yeah, I definitely think it had a great success, and it's not only a success. I think it also had great critical success. Like I said, it had great word of mouth. I think Rotten Tomatoes, it's in the 90s, which is really good. It's kind of pretty hard to do. So definitely think that this movie was successful from all angles, box office wise, or streaming wise, and critical wise. That will be for this video. Please leave a like and subscribe if you like this video. And also, it took me a lot of effort and a lot of time to be able to make this video, especially with the Premiere Access numbers. So it would be greatly appreciated and very helpful if you could just leave a like and subscribe. Also, leave a comment if you want a sequel or a show, like which one do you prefer. I'll leave my preference in the comments down below if you're curious. And yeah, I will also do a video on ideas for a Raya sequel, Raya and the Last Dragon 2, or for a show. I think that's a video I'm gonna do if this video does good. And if it does do good and I do it, The link will be in the corner if you're watching this from the future. If not, subscribe so you don't miss it. I think I have a lot of ideas for a sequel or for a show, so I definitely think that if you like this movie and if you're interested in this movie and where it goes, definitely you should subscribe to go check out that video whenever it comes out. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and this is J Entertainment out.